Hey everybody, today I am down in Southern California and I am taking a look at the new 2027 Kia Telluride. Yes, 2027 for this model year. They're skipping 2026. We're going to get an all-new second generation Telluride that shares essentially nothing with the outgoing model. Now, I'm really sorry, I only have 20 minutes with this, so if I accidentally trip up, there are going to be some notes down there in the comment section, etc., about corrections, but let's just dive into what we've got here. Obviously, we have a much bigger and hungrier grille. Kia said that they really loved the angular theme, and shoppers were loving the orange DRLs and the angular and boxy theme of the previous Telluride, so they've just gone even deeper into that with this new model. We have these really distinctive sort of J-shaped DRLs here, progressive illumination in certain trims. The LED headlights, they're really exploring the new sizes and shapes for LED lighting in some of their new vehicles. So LED headlights just here, high beams and low beams, and then it looks like we have fog lights down there. But if you come in close, you'll really notice one of these big changes. This is the X Pro trim with actual functional recovery hooks front and rear, and there are 4 of them. So unlike some sort of off-roady models in this segment, this one does actually have some reasonable hardware to back it up. As we come around to the side, you'll notice definitely upright and boxy. Now, I'll tell you in advance, we have not been allowed to look under the hood, but I think we can all guess about what's going on under there. It's probably going to be the same 3.5-liter V6 as the recently redesigned Hyundai Palisade, with which this logically shares some of its structure, although we don't know yet. And we don't know whether or not we're going to be getting the 2.5-liter turbo hybrid system from that Palisade, but I would say eventually it's probably a pretty good guess. Now, coming around to the side, you'll definitely notice a big departure in terms of style from the previous Telluride, because it's still big, it's still boxy, but it's bigger. So we have a longer wheelbase, nearly 3 inches longer, nearly 3 inches longer overall length. The roofline is up about 1 inch. And that's one of the things I really liked about the Palisade, which I think is going to really translate well to this as well, is that it's huge inside. So this is no longer as direct of a competitor to something like a Honda Pilot as it has been in the past, or definitely the Toyota Highlander, because those are smaller on the inside. Some of the interesting details that I really noticed up front were the way that they've really tied in these wheel arches with the rest of the design. So we have this strong shoulder here, and then they've chiseled it in this section, pulling it down towards the wheel arches in that area. Now, since this is the X Pro trim, this is the off-road look, so we get all-terrain tires, those more rugged wheels, etc., body cladding pretty much everywhere down there at the bottom. And yes, shiny black body cladding, which I've never been the biggest fan of in an off-road model because that's really going to show scratches quite easily. But it is an interesting blend of shiny and matte plastic. So if you come in close here, you can see we have a matte insert right there in the middle, and then all this shiny black jewelry going on there. The door handles, those are an interesting touch too, because we now have powered door handles. Those help improve the aerodynamics. Kind of an interesting one there if we're worried about fuel economy, but no hybrid system has been announced yet. And then we get a really boxy look right back here. So I'll let the camera go out a little bit so you can really see how upright the rear end design is here. Very, very upright hatch. And that's one of those interesting twists with this design. The size and length are up, but the utility inside is up more dramatically than the exterior dimensions because they've really kept the overhangs really tight front and rear. Now, looking at the rear here, again, sorry, haven't had too much time. I did notice that one thing we find in that new Palisade that we don't seem to have here is third row seats that slide forward and backward. Obviously, they fold, but they don't slide forward and backward to give you a different amount of storage space. But if I close this hatch, you can see what's going on here with the rear end design. Again, very, very upright, very Range Rover, Land Rover, to be honest. And I know some people have objected to that comparison, but when the original Telluride launched, my next door neighbor actually ran out and traded in her Range Rover for a Telluride because she just thought there was some synergy in the looks. Same sort of design here with the taillights that was going on up front. Of course, we have the recovery hooks down there. There would be a tow hitch receiver under that panel, but we don't have any details on that just yet. Now let's talk about the seats and the seating up front. I'll just go ahead and hop over here and on the passenger side so we can talk generally about the kind of space that we get in here. We are going to see an improvement in interior space and interior volume most likely, but again, no detailed specs yet. This seat's pretty comfortably adjusted for me. It's plenty of headroom there. Let's talk about the second row and third row though, because that's where we definitely see a huge amount of space. Just like in the Palisade, just check that out. There's so much room in here. And I think that's one reason that people gravitated so much towards the original Telluride, was simply the amount of room that it offered. The second row seats either fold and tumble like that, or they slide forward right here like this seat, which means you cannot leave a child seat latch anchored into place, by the way, with that particular seat design. But if you come in close and take a look at the third row room, you know, the seat bottom cushion, yeah, it's a little bit lower to the ground than I might like, but actually higher off the ground than something like a Highlander, for instance, and lots of headroom is happening back here. With this dark interior, it's probably hard to see, but I have about 2 inches of headroom left. You'll be able to get this with either 7 or 8 seats. So right back here in the third row, I'll show you this a little bit later in the video in more detail, but we do actually have a center seat right back here in the third row with its own itty bitty little headrest and a 60/40 folding seat design. Also, latch anchors back there in the third row. That's kind of an interesting touch. Now let's take a look at the interior. As you can see, this is definitely a very different design than we find in the new Palisade. I think this works a little bit better for the format of the vehicle. There are a number of different interior color combinations available. Unfortunately, the only one they had here for us to take a look at is this relatively dark model here, so it is a little bit difficult to show you on camera. We have these trumpet shape like headrests there that we've seen in other Kia models for a while. Height adjustable shoulder belts, of course. And I like the upholstery choices here. So this is a blend of leather upholstery and an Alcantara-like fabric. It actually matches or is really similar to what's going on up here on the headliner. So lots of premium touches there. High power USB-C power outlets there. The seat design is definitely a modern interpretation of what we find on the current generation Telluride, but the rest of the interior is definitely a departure from that design language. So they've really sculpted the dashboard out and dished the doors in a bit more. Lots of soft touch materials are going on the doors themselves, ambient lighting there, etc. The door latch mechanism, it's that little lever right there, and you can see the ambient lighting in that area. Moving over to the dashboard, what's interesting about this that is definitely different than we find in the Hyundai is that you'll be able to get real wood trim inside your Kia Telluride. And not just one wood option, there are actually going to be 2 different real wood options, an imitation wood option, and then this carbon fiber option.
Let's digress for a moment, because after I filmed the Telluride, I was able to take a look at the samples of the interior components that Kia had provided. So here you can see the X-Line interior in its 2-tone color scheme with the imitation wood you see below. We then have the X-Line trim with that sort of carbon fiber effect and wood trim, so this is actually part of the real wood lineup. And you'll notice that the color of these interior components is subtly not gray. This is actually kind of a green-blue gray going on there in this X-Line trim. In the X Pro line, we have more of that real wood and some of that carbon fiber stuff going on there. This interior is really one of the interesting ones where we have the real wood trim and kind of purplish accents. It's not full-on purple, not Barney purple, but it is a subtle purple interior color. I want to see what that one looks like in person. Also quite eye-popping is this combination orange and blue interior combo. It's pretty baseball glove in person, so it is pretty darn bright. A little bit more subtle is this navy blue and cream theme. We then have more of a navy blue sort of charcoal vibe going on there. And here are some close-up shots of the wood trim that Kia is using. So this is a real wood product, and it has been laminated kind of like plywood and then cut on a bias. Now these were early pre-production samples of all this trim, so if you see what look like splinters, well, for this they are, but the production ones didn't look like that. Just the samples they had out on display where everybody was grabbing and pulling and twisting on them.
We have a soft touch upper section of the dashboard, soft touch midsection, hard plastics lower as you'd expect, decently sized bin style glove compartment there. Of course, we get the latest Kia infotainment system here in the middle of everything, and it is still the 2-screen setup that we've seen from Kia for a while, where we have the climate control options in this little touch screen bit in the middle, but the LCDs, you can see them separated right there. This is just a touch LED bank in the middle of everything. The one problem I find with that is that it does tend to get covered a little bit by the steering wheel. You can see the head-up display right there, part of the driver attention monitoring system blinking along there, and the latest Kia steering wheel with the drive mode and terrain mode buttons now relocated over here to the steering wheel. I actually think that's a really good place to put them because it frees up space elsewhere, as does the shifter. So you'll see it's a column-mounted stock-style shifter right there that you rotate around, and that's what allows them to give us this really big center console storage area here. We have 3 USB ports there, only 1 interfaces with the system, toggles for the climate control, some touch buttons up there for the infotainment system, and this big area where we have what look like 2 Chery wireless charging mats. We don't know all the trim level details yet, but this trim at least has 2 full charging mats. auto brake hold, and then this huge storage area right here in the middle with this slide style cover. Again, this one has the carbon fiber accent, but in some of the trims, you're going to get a lot of real wood trim in this area, something that we're seeing in other mainstream brands like Jeep, but I'm really happy to see Kia doing in something like the Telluride, because it really does improve the impression of premiumness and premium nature. We have grab handles here in the center console, kind of a nod to the off-road intentions of the Telluride, and then this opening bifold storage area right there with cup holders in the center for the second row. That's definitely my preference. There's some additional storage right below there. Let's take a look at the seats now. You can see that we have the relaxation mode seat there where we have the extending power ottoman. We also have inflatable bolsters, four-way lumbar support. And then over here on the door, this is where you're going to find the seat memory controls, heated steering wheel, heated seats, ventilated seats, and a seat massage function as well. Now jumping into the second row to take a look at this area, we have manual second row seats. Again, those move in that manner you saw there. It's difficult to see, but these seats are not quite charcoal. There's like a little bit of a blue hint to the seat. I think it's a really attractive design. In the center, we find those cup holders. We also have a storage bin that rolls out from that center area and has a lid, so you can use that as a little table or as a storage area. Sorry, it's hard to do that one-handed. You'll find the controls for the rear climate control zone, 3-zone climate control here, not 4-zone, up here on the ceiling. Similar air vents to before, and that second pane for that panoramic moonroof design, that one has an electric shade on it. We also have heated and ventilated second row seats. You can see the buttons right there, and nicely integrated sunshades over there on the side. Back there in the third row, we logically have hard plastic for the armrests. Again, those two sets of latch anchors and a very similar design to the other seats, but logically more of a bench style design. And again, there is apparently going to be a bench seat for the middle in certain trims, so you will be able to seat 8 still. Now the big deal here is that we have a lot more headroom and legroom in here thanks to the Boxy design than something like a Highlander or even that Pilot. But again, unfortunately, there is still a great deal that we don't know about the Kia Telluride. We know that it's going to be built in the United States, which does mean that it's going to be built in a different factory currently than the Hyundai Palisade is. And that may mean that we may not get the drivetrain upgrades that we get in the Palisade, or who knows, we may get them anyway. That is just not known at this point in time, but who knows, by the time you're watching this video, we may know a bit more. We also obviously do not know any pricing information on the new Kia Telluride. I would expect it to be slightly more expensive than the outgoing model, but again, anything is our guess at this moment in time. I will say that I am a fan of some of the interior upgrades that Kia has done. If we take a look over here at this screen, this may not show right on the camera, Oh, there we go. But they're actually showing us one of those interior color options that's going to be available. And that's the one that really strikes my eye, this interesting two-color design that actually kind of goes with their Opposites United design philosophy, which is what they're calling their design on most of the new Kia models. I think that interior color combo works well. There's also kind of a purpley interior color and some more regular beige, and of course this black on black interior color combination as well. Exactly which trims are going to get which colors, though, again, that is another one of those things that we don't know yet. So let us know what you think about the Telluride and what your expectations are going to be down there in the comment section below. And stay tuned, because hopefully we will get that info to you just as soon as we can. See all of you later.